She's going to go into the Word the Lord gave her for tonight. Praise God.
We have to realize God is already, I was watching and waiting. You know, God likes to break our structures up. And He likes to do what He wants. We don't always need worship for God to move. He's already moved. You carry God. And as Pat was up here declaring what God was doing, okay. I'm sorry, I have to focus here. As Pat was up here declaring what God was doing, I saw this great canopy of fire above the stage here. It kind of looked like a crown, but then it looked more like a canopy. As Pat was declaring what the moving of the Spirit was doing all over the earth, I felt like the Lord was going to awaken the church to get her eyes off of herself and onto what He's doing. That she is to be a house of prayer for all nations and a house of His presence. And I saw this door open right back here, and the door was Jesus. And He was the door, but it opened. And Pat began to declare and begin to pray about different things that the Spirit moved on him. That's why we're starting different tonight. Because Jesus is doing something new. And it's Him. And as I saw the canopy of fire, that crown, that canopy, it was like a layer of fire over. I saw angels begin to descend into the room here. And then the intercession began to open up. Because God wants to do something new, and He wants to say things to His people. And He took me to 1 Corinthians 16:9. It says, a wide door of opportunity for effectual service has been opened to you. There are great and many promises in that door, and there are adversaries more, because it's a time for war. And you must understand you're in the deep, you're not on the shore, but you are in my great and effectual door. You are on my prayer floor, and it's time to birth the harvest more. And you must get a greater vision than of yourself. You must take your eyes off of yourself, and you must put it on what I am doing among you and around you. Sometimes we just need to be still and listen to what God is saying. Father, forgive us. Lord, we stand in the door that we are meant for. We stand in the door that you yourself are. And we lay our hearts before you in this hour. Holy Spirit, change us. Come in your power. Come and strip us naked in your shower. Take our eyes off of ourselves. And even off of each other. And Lord, let us see what you see. Come with your canopy, Father. Come with the crown that you have reserved for yours, that have stood in that hidden place. Father, let the house of prayer be opened again. The house of bread, the house of healing, the house of your presence and not of men. Let the angels carry the seeds all over the earth. Let the hearts of men break forth once again. Lord, you're shaking the pillars of the earth and of men. You're here with your healing wind. Give us ears to hear as we put our eyes on you. Give us eyes to see. Let your burdens begin to burn like fire within. As you stretch out your canopy over men, let the transformation begin. For your burdens will be lifted high in this hour. Your proclamations will shake regions in power. Your revelations will break the strongholds that have held us down. As your fire burns all around. It's not about you anymore. Get your eyes off of yourself and get it on the broken and the poor. Get it on those that are not like you, that are crying out to me. Look around and see. They're waiting for you and me. Oh, the shaking's going to increase. Because I am the God of peace. And I'm coming to bring a great release. And my wonders shall not cease. Because no longer will you talk about you. No longer will you talk about what you used to do. Oh, your eyes are going to be on me. And you're going to be in wonder and awe at all of the heavenly activity that I'm waiting for you and I to agree. I placed you in this region judicially. I placed you in your city, in your location for my purpose. Oh, watch and see what I do with you and what I do among all of you. Let go of what you're used to doing and move into what I am doing. Because this is me. The old is finished. I am the door. And my fire is going to increase more. My angels are here. And my 4 pillars shall be shaken again. My cities that I have called to my breast, I will give them no rest until they join my quest. For I put my horse in this region, and though my horse had needed many legions, you have stayed true to what I've called you to do. Oh, because you are the keeper of my horseshoe. All of my gold shall be found again, and my fire shall burn in the hearts of men. And my angels will ascend and descend. Because, children, I'm coming with a brand new wind. And you shall know it shall begin, because I'm going to shake this region like never before. Because I've opened a great and effectual and fiery door. And you're going to stand on a holy floor. And your eyes are going to be upon me more. Because it's mine. And it is divine. And the shaking here will be a sign. I've begun again. I have begun again. I have begun again. Father, we glorify you. We worship you. We praise you. We give you honor and glory. You are worthy. There is no one but you. For you alone will be seen and heard. Your hand is moving in our land. Your hand is moving in our land. We stand in your hand. We stand in your hand. You want us to understand. Our hearts are anchored in you. In all that you want to say and do, Father, here we are. Let us all begin in your brand new wind that will not end. Thank you, Jesus. Welcome, everybody. It's a different night. And we welcome all of you across the world. If you're tuning in, it's different, and I don't care. Because God is speaking in this hour, and we need to be still and listen. And we need to embrace him because he's changing everything. And you're here by divine appointment. You're here in divine timing. And the things we're going to be sharing tonight might be personal to us, but guess what? It's all about you guys too. God is moving everywhere, and things are breaking open. Houses of worship, houses of prayer, houses of healing, houses of evangelism, houses of teaching, everywhere. God is opening the doors of his house again. And you're not to do what other people are doing. You're to do what he's calling you to do. Amen. Everybody's position and commission is different, but you're all needed. And so I want to share some things that we talked about Sunday night. And we're seeing the fruit of it already, obviously. And so I did put my notes on my wall. For those of you that watch Sunday night, this is going to be part of it, but it's going to be expounded. And those of you that didn't, you can follow along because the notes are on my wall. Thank you, Father. So Sunday night was such a God-directed meeting. We didn't even know what God was doing. It was step by step. It just fell into place. It was not orchestrated. There was no way. And if you've been in our church before, that's usually what happens, because God just like unfolds things, and we just get along for the ride, and we're along for the journey, and by the end of the night, we can't sleep all night because we're so vibrating all night. But you know, we have to be used to that because God is breaking us out of our ruts, out of our comfort zones, out of our schedules, and everything that we're used to doing. Get ready for God to blow it up. You're going to have to be comfortable in the uncomfortable, because we're never going back to what we're used to, ever. And why would we want to? So, on the paper, I handed every one of you a copy. I think, Deborah, you have yours from the row ahead of you? Okay. I was just praying. And I just opened in prayer and I said, Father, we're thankful that you have joined us to your body, corporate body, and we are your resting place, because isn't that the purpose? We are to be his resting place, aren't we? We are to be his resting place, sorry. I guess I didn't give you one. The place you have desired, even in this region. And all of you here are from different points of our region. And you're all part of the network, the new net that God is weaving for the greater move. Every one of you, God brought you by divine appointment for this night. God is bringing us to a place that he has desired even in this region. And what he means by that is every, I don't want to say church, but I want to, I want to say body of believers that are in that place. There's a 500-mile geographical region around the birthing place. There's a 50-mile radius, a 150-mile radius, and a 500-mile radius that God is spreading out in. And some of you are in each one of those increments. And some of you watching are in that. But don't feel bad if you're not in that, because it goes out to you as well, because God is birthing in your areas too. And he's beginning to expand. Now the problem is we have such a local vision, we can't see beyond ourselves. Sometimes we only have our own personal vision, our ministry, our family, that's it. Nothing wrong with that. But God wants to open the eyes of the church to look past herself into what he's doing further out. Because the church needs a long-term view. Otherwise, we're not going to affect a generation. He wants to give the church a generation view, a greater harvest view, because otherwise we're only going to reach the ones we're comfortable with. We're only going to reach our little cocoon. But he wants to open our eyes to see that there's more around us, right? So there are some where God will put a local church, and he'll say, this is your radius, and we'll focus on our neighbors and everything in that area, and that's good, because there's churches that have that vision, and that's their part. But then God says, I want a city to begin to get a vision for what I want to do in that city. And then there are regions where God is awakening a region to say, hey, we're one body, let's work together, right? And then there are a few that have a national view or international view, that have a harvest view that goes beyond themselves. So there are radiuses that God wants to establish. But even in the midst of that, God is breathing fresh vision, new vision. Because guess what? The old is done. And nothing that you think is going to happen is going to be the way you thought anyways. There's a new atmosphere. He wants to increase his presence. And he said it's time to breathe in the atmosphere. to breathe in him. And he said, so far we've been a voice in the wilderness crying out in this region, and all of you have. Because most of the prophetic voices in this region haven't been heeded. Most aren't awakening. Some are. But that's true for everywhere. Because God has had most of his prophetic voices in the wilderness crying out. But guess what? His voice is coming stronger and longer, right? And his voice is going on the airwaves and the media waves and upon the waves of his spirit. So I said Sunday night, I said, Lord, speak. We are listening. What are you saying, God? And so the Lord spoke Sunday night. And he said, children, do not be afraid of the things ahead. Do not look at the world and be in dread. The world is the world, and they're doing what they do, right? He said, oh no, look at me instead. I am your daily bread. I am the one who wrote your book instead. Your life is not your own. Your life belongs to me. I sent you into this earth to make a difference. I sent you here to call upon my name that I might hear their cries. This is where the houses of prayer are important. Calling upon him on behalf of others, right? That I might see them and draw them to me. It is not the end, it is not. It is the end of the old. But there are greater things yet to be told. And there are greater things that I have yet to do. And God said, you do not see them in this hour, but watch, children, for the new is unfolding. I am the new, I am the true. I am the voice that is still crying in the wilderness. I am the voice that very few listen to, but I have stationed you in your place. I have set you here, I have set you there. And I have set you where I need you the most. But Lord, I'm the only one. Yes, you are. But they need you. Even if you're just crying out in the wilderness, your voice has a purpose. You are shifting atmospheres, right? Listen to my voice. Listen in this hour, for you are going to behold the dawning of my power. I have yet to begin to show you the things that are coming to an end. And I have yet to begin to show you the things that will remain and will continue on. But I have much for you to do. You know, there are many saying it's the end of our planet. It's going to pole flip. It's going to flip over. It's all going to be destroyed. God said that he would never flood the earth again. But God did say, I'm going to shake the planet. And he is shaking it. And he said it's going to shake harder. And everything's going to fall down and crumble. Everything except what will remain and continue. What does that mean? I don't know. But we have to know his voice, don't we? God has a generational plan. We talked a lot about that in the class. Now, though everything has been laid down and everything has lied fallow, everything has now God's speaking to us here personally in this region. Listen to this. And though everything has been laid down and everything has lied fallow, our churches are empty, everybody's left, they're running around, they're not listening, they're not rooting in the ground, right? Everything is disconnected for a season. Watch my hands rewire my people in a new fashion. Watch my hands remake and remold so that the new can be retold, for you are my vessels of gold. Do not think that everything has crumbled. Yes, much shall tumble, but watch and listen for my voice, for it shall rumble. Now this was on the 5th, right? There's much more I want to do. And you're just beginning to behold the things that shall come up before the new, that shall come before the new. But your purpose is not finished. Your purpose has yet to begin. I am going to mend, I am going to raise up, and I'm going to send again. And Pat was talking about the sending. The people going out into the fields of the earth, right? God is repositioning everything, recommissioning. Yeah. And Sunday night was about fulfilling the new commission. He said, listen for my voice in the wind. Listen for what are men running out to see? People are running everywhere from this and that and the other, and they're not being still. They're not listening to God for themselves personally. What are you running out to listen to? Oh, they are going to discover it's not a man, it's me. I am your stability, and you shall be amazed at what I will do, even among all of you. You shall be amazed, and you shall know it's me, because it is not a work of man. None of this has been a work of man. Now I want to say, as Pat was talking up here tonight, I was watching, and Jesus just stepped right in. It was not a work of man. The house of prayer started opening up. Right at the beginning. God was birthing something, establishing decrees. So you have to move with the Spirit. It's not going to be the norm. God's fire started burning in this place. The Lord is going to change everything. Not saying we're not going to have worship. I'm just saying if he wants to just start out doing something, we just got to flow with him, right? Man, I'm burning up here. This is my work, because I am refashioning you all. And you're not going to struggle, and you're not even going to look back. But your eyes are going to be fashioned on me, because I'm going to draw people to me. It is me. I am the one that draws them. You have seen the fruit, but you're about to see me. You are going to wonder, and you're going to be thankful. And you're going to cleave tightly to each other. For though through you all I will complete, and I will finish my purpose for this hour. And then you shall run. All of you shall run. See, God wants to heal the division in his body, the strife, the offenses, the opinions. He wants us to get our eyes off of ourselves and our ministry and what we're doing. And he says, get your eyes on each other, and you have a greater ministry together. Not that we don't have individual ministries, we all do. But he's saying, but you're about to do something corporately that you've never done. That's what God's looking for. A region of war. Why do you think we've had such a fight in this region? Why do you think the fire is going to burn everywhere? You're in a war. You are going to wonder, and you're going to be thankful. And you're going to cleave tightly to each other. For through you all I will complete, and I will finish my purpose for this hour, and then you shall run. You can't run till everybody is one, right? All of you shall run, and you will see the fruit of why you labored in secret with me. Because suddenly it will be displayed publicly, and you will give thanks that you did not interfere with my plans, but you yielded and laid down, and you waited for the ministry of my hands. But suddenly my fire is going to fan, because I am revealing my blueprints and my plans. Children, I am at work, and the old is done, and the new has begun. You stand between the two, Now think of this. Between the old and the new, we're right in the middle of what was and what is. And we have a choice. You stand with me. You stand together, and together you will be what you have desired me to be, and you will know that I did it. Your dependence will be upon each other, and your strength will come from each other, and you will fulfill your commission as I wrote it in the book of your mission. Do you know every church has a scroll? Every ministry. Every person, obviously. But churches and ministries and businesses, everything. You have a scroll, your earthly role. You have a mission, a commission. Do you know what's in your corporate scroll? Do you know what is in this region's scroll? We should all know, right? If we have a commission and a mission, we should all know what's in our corporate regional scroll. And that's something to think about. But God's just opening it up. Lord, what did you write in this region's book? Lift us up so we can take a look. He said, you will fulfill it all because you did not give up and you did not quit, but you stood and you stood in me. Look again and look with eyes that shall see, and you will know it was all me. Now, that's how we started out Sunday night. And then Pat asked me to share about the change of the horses, the transfer of the horses. And just as regions have their own corporate scroll that their region is supposed to birth for God or to do, it's the same thing as there's a horse for every region, right? It's God moving in a region. That's what the horse represents. And the white horse is a parable of the sovereign move of the Spirit of truth and power. It's the work of the Holy Spirit among us. And the white horse has been in Rochester region for many years, because Bob Jones came here and told us that. And God has been working out in his timing all the intricacies of getting us rebuilt into what he wants us to be. And so Sunday he said, I'm activating that new commission now, because everything's dead now, and I'm going to bring a new birth. And so last week, I was standing in the heavens with the Lord with my big workhorse, right? And the Lord brought a second white horse. And I said, Lord, you're going to give us two? Why do we need two? Obviously, we need spiritual help. I said, Lord, you're giving us another horse? He said, no. I thought he was going to take our workhorse, our horse, and give us a different one. And he said, no, you need two for what I'm about to do, for what you all are about to do. He said, I am doubling because you need the increase. And the increase will help you in the acceleration. A double horsing is the reinforcing. Because honestly, in the warfare, I've been tired for weeks, physically and spiritually, tired in my spirit. And I didn't understand. I said, Lord, why am I exhausted and tired? Why? And he says, your region is tired. Your region is exhausted in their hearts, in their minds, in their vision. They're worn out. And I was feeling what the region was feeling. But he said, I'm going to reinforce you guys with double strength. You need double strength because you are going to do what you could not do before. My spirit is going to join your spirit. And you are going to do what you could not do before. He said, my body in this region is going to learn to stop laboring in their own strengths and draw from my double strength, my perfect strength that will cause you to do double what you could not do before, or what you could before. There is a reinforcing happening right now. There's an increase in the acceleration because acceleration brings elevation. As you go higher, you're going to need more. You're going to be reinforced with mighty indwelling strength. Now, what did the Lord say? For a wide door of opportunity for effectual service has opened to you. And there are great and promising ones, but there are also many adversaries. It's not looking at what the adversary is doing, it's understanding you have more than enough within you and among you and through you all to plow right through that stuff. God is going to restore the vision of this region, the heartbeat of this region, and of your regions that are watching.
Now, about a week ago, the Lord gave Sue this scripture. He just quickened it to me, which goes along with the double strength. Yeah. Habakkuk 3:19 in the Amplified Classic version. Habakkuk 3:19. The Lord is my strength, my personal bravery, and my invincible army. Look at this. He makes my feet like hinds' feet and will make me to walk, not to stand still in terror, but to walk and make spiritual progress upon my high places. Yes. That's what the Lord's saying in this prophecy. Same word. Of trouble, suffering, or responsibility. But that's what the Lord's saying, see? He's your strength. He's your bravery. And He's your invincible army. Yes. Think of that. Yes. But it says the Lord is those things. So it's not a thing you're getting from the Lord. It is the Lord. The Lord God is your strength, is your bravery, is your invincible army. Think of that. It's God Himself, the Lord God. And see, He's the one that gives you those hinds feet. You're going to go on the high places, higher on the mountain. See? Yeah. You're going to make spiritual progress on His high places. Yeah.
So, okay. When God brings another horse into our region, and you can find that parabolic understanding in Zechariah chapter 1, yes. God will always show you what His Spirit is doing among you all in that region. Sometimes He will bring more than one horse in your area because you need it. In Zechariah 1, the Lord explains the horses. He says, it is my Spirit that is at watch and that is looking and watching everything in the land. It's His Spirit patrolling the earth. It's the angelic host. God sees everything.
Now it's important that we understand when we got the prophecy of the horses, that first time Lord's prophet Bob Jones came, right after we got that prophecy, that was the time in Rochester they set up 400 horses all over the region. Think of it. You remember that? 400 statues of horses as a sign to confirm what the prophet got for our area. And they were all different colors, all different shapes. They were. If you remember, I have a book full. It showed all 400 in the book they gave out. They were all over Rochester and the whole region as a confirming sign in the natural of what was prophesied in the spiritual. See, we had two. First, he said the red horse, war in the heavenlies, was coming here. Then second, the white horse, war on the earth, was coming, of the move of God, like Sue said, of the Spirit of truth and power. And he said the white horse had a little horn on his right hoof. And he said that was the revealing of the power of God to Rochester. But see, God did this. I wanted to mention this because, like Sue said, 400 horses. If you look in Zechariah 1, there's many horses. There's the red horse, there's the speckled horses, there's all different colored horses. They're all listed, in many of them in Zechariah 1. So I just wanted to mention this to remind us that, see, obviously it's a big work God's doing with the horses, or you wouldn't have that many, 400.
Yeah. So, he said there's an addition, a multiplication, and an acceleration and an elevation in your station. You can't even model the equation of what I'm going to do in this occasion. In other words, we won't have a grid for it. Because it's not a work of man, it's a divine work of God. That's why the whole city was crying out, it's God, it's God, it's God, because it was not a man. It just blew up. It was God. It was fire everywhere. So I got ahead of myself here. Thank you, Lord. He said, let's go back up to that. Yeah. God, he said, he will always show you in the spirit what he's doing. In the parable of the horses, sometimes he will bring in more than one horse in your area because you need it. God is calling to all of those who are to birth together. There's a new birth happening. Amen. Now, of course, the enemy wants to kill the new birth right now, but he can't do it. But he said, what has died, the old, and what was killed off and brought to a stump, which every one of our churches and ministries and everything is a stump. God killed everything for a reason. He said, you're going to birth a new shoot out of the stump. Where the very place where everything has died off, that's the place where God sprouts a new shoot. And it becomes a great tree in the earth. Don't ever mock what died. That's the very ground that will produce again. That's why God's not done with this four-city region. God's not done with America or Canada. God's not done. There's a new shoot. We are in a new cycle, and you don't have enough strength in you to do what God is going to do. God is going to join himself to you and double it. A doubling is exponential, mighty indwelling strength. Now, there's an addition, a multiplication, an acceleration, an elevation in your station. And you're not going to model the equation of what I'm going to do in this occasion. So don't try to chart it, graph it, and try to figure it out. Though the enemy has been raging, the words have been flying back and forth. The arrows, the missiles, the darts, even off of your tongues. That's the big battle that's flying among the church right now. Watch and see, because I'm going to kill all of those things that the enemy are going to fall to the ground unfruitful in my presence. See, we're not going to slander and accuse and gossip and argue and fight and backbite in the glory. No. That's all going to burn up. We got to get beyond that. Yes. We're all going to change in God's presence anyways. I am the seed that went into the ground, though for a season you looked for it all around. And you could not even hear the sound in this region. Why? Where did it go, Lord? It's all dead. There's nothing left. We are a skeleton instead. These are words that we have said in this region. It all died. It was a train wreck, a shipwreck. It's all gone. We're all broken up. We're all disconnected. It's a skeleton. Of course. It wasn't right. A lot of the hearts weren't right. A lot of our motives and our works weren't right. Plus, it wasn't time. It was a trial run to see what we would do. Watch. It's coming anew. But this time it's not what we will do, it's what he will do. Watch, my breath is coming. And what'd you prophesy, breath into Ian? My wind is on the rise, and you are going to see the enemy's demise. Oh, and it's going to be quite a surprise because I'm going to confound the wisdom of the wise. They thought they knew what I was going to do. Oh, but it was hidden from men's view because that's how I protected all of you. Sometimes God will isolate the truth so it won't be defiled by the leaven that is spreading through it all. Right? It's actually not even about us. It's just that we were willing to join him. Anybody can take a part. It was more about what he wanted to do, and we got a view, and we said, here we are, what do you want to do? You know, it's about him. He said, I'm the keeper of that seed. My horses are among you in this hour. For my word has been sown, and you are called, and you have called it your own, and you would not let go. Sometimes we thought we did, but he knows. And you would contend and stand in the end. You would not give up, and you would not even quit, though you were all alone. How many have felt like that? Watch, children. For my breath and my wind that I'm going to send, it's going to descend and resurrect it. Let's blow on it again. Oops. I'm going to descend, it's going to descend, and it shall not end because I'm on the move. So what? It's me and it's not a man that all men would want to call upon and see. No, no. It's not going to be a famous personality, your favorite prophet or apostle or evangelist or pastor or teacher. It's not. It's God. Now, we all have a part, but we need to look at him. You will not lift up a man in this season. You will not lift up a man in this city for your reason. You shall call upon me, whoa, on bended knee. You shall call upon me, and you shall see that I have destined what I have destined for you to be. Why do you think the enemy would contend? Why do you think he's fighting you? Day after day, hour after hour on end. Why do you think, guys? Why do you think that this is the end? It's not the end. Oh, Jesus. He's outwaited us patiently till we got to our end. I have waited for this hour when everyone that resisted you moved on because they said, oh, they are through. It's over. Let's go move on to the new. They did not see that I outwaited them, for their hearts were not true to what I wanted to do. They thought I left you. And that's true. I know what people say. I don't care. And they could say that about every one of you in here, right? But they do not know my word, because my word says that I do not leave my own. I do not leave my word, and my spirit agree. I would never leave the word that I have sown. It is not your duty to grow my word. It's mine. That's a big ouch. You can't sprout it the way you want it, when you want it, how you want it. Your duty is to agree with me and partner with me so that I can grow my word the way I have decreed it to be. Now watch. My breath and my wind will come again. For there are good things in Nazareth to begin. And he said our region is like a Nazareth. For I am the keeper. I am the fruitful one. It won't be your work. It will be mine. My word has gone forth. It will bear fruit because, children, you are willing to allow me to regrow the roots. You have been allowing me to cultivate the fruits. And though many could not see because it was an underground work hidden with me.
Yes.
Why do you think God isolated you? And many don't understand, but you do, right? They are about to see the shoots come up through the soil. They're going to look and they're going to wonder, what is this? They're going to say, whoa. They will be, again, they are going to be on their knees because they are going to recognize that hidden work is me. Kind of reminds me of Joseph, where he went through hell and back.
Yes.
And even his own kinsmen just laughed at him.
Yes.
But in the end, Joseph said to them, this was all God.
Yes. God.
It was all God, so that you could stand here with me and know that the liberty came because of what God did in me. See, it doesn't matter who was right and who wasn't. It really mattered who was willing to die in the midst of it so he could bring something new, right? It really isn't about anybody individually. It's about, will you die to everything? Will you let it all die and let me birth something new? That's the key, right? He said, I am after the heart of this region. I'm after the heart of this city, number one. Always, first and foremost, your little radius, 50 miles, right? 150, 500, right? It keeps going out. Everything is about the seed. I'm after the heart of this region. I'm after the heart of this state and of this nation. See, it's bigger than us, but guess what? We get the participation, right? Do you understand? Do you understand my parables in the land? Do you understand why it's been hidden for a while? Do you understand the importance of your command? All of you have authority. Why would you agree with death in this hour? And the reason why God was saying that is because we're all prophesying death, destruction, annihilation, concentration camps, China imprisoning us, Russia blowing us up. We're all agreeing with death. I would rather agree with life, right? Speak life. If those things have to come, we're going to resurrect people in it. I mean, if we're going to see those days, fine, but we got a job to do in those days. But don't empower it. Rise up in it, right? Okay. All right. It is time to rise up in life and power. God says, you are needed in this hour. You are a voice, and you are my hand. And God says, rise up in your command. For you are stewards of the inheritance that I have sown in this land. It's time to fulfill the rest of your command. Now, every one of you have been through the ringer, like we all have, and we were tested. And God watched many all over this region being tested. Why? God always does that when he's going to birth something true. And you've stood the test of time, but we're in a new time now, and it's not going to be like before. And you're the inheritance of the promises for this region, this state, this nation. And God needs us to begin to agree with life, to agree with his purpose, and for the harvest of our nation. America shall be saved. How it comes is up to God, but it's not going to be willing. It's going to be a fight. And most, like the Lord said, will come in a time of great shaking. But that's okay. Aren't we made for that? Now, before I give you the scriptures, I want to make a couple comments when we did this. Ed and Debbie were here. And See, this whole meeting Sunday night was so orchestrated, I was amazed because I didn't have a thought of how it would turn out. It just started happening. And then he said, do this, say that, go get that, do all this. And then it ended up what it was. But what it was a few years ago, Michael Fickus went to Moravian Falls, in the mountain there, where there's a prayer mountain kind of a thing. And there was a cave. In the mountain, they went down in the cave, and they found 2 stones. And the Lord told them to bring one here, because we were called to be a prophetic house of prayer and of other things. And so we've had it here all this time. We talked about it before. But Sunday night, he said, go get that. And I said, okay. And he said, everything that men did is dead. There's a new commissioning in your region instead. Whoa. Because it will not be planned by men's heads. I'm giving it birth. I'm going to re-root it in the earth. So what we did, if you watch the video, we took that rock and we anointed it with fresh oil and we set it in the ground of this region. All right? Okay. You got something on that?
The Spirit a minute ago quickened this to me when Sue read that one part. Let me look at here again. She read the part where she said here about the heart.
Yeah.
Okay, here it is. I am after the heart of this city. I am after the heart of this region. I am after the heart of this state and of this nation.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, I'm going to read you the word that the resurrection angels gave to Bob Jones when he died. It's exactly quoting what the Lord just said there. And I've been praying this thing in for years, this word. This is from 1975. But listen to what this says, and it's exactly the same. And here's the point. When Sue just said this to you, what did she say? That we're like Joseph. Didn't she just say that?
Yeah.
We're like Joseph, right? She said that. Now, listen to this. Here's the resurrection angels, what they said. So it always begins in the heart of a man, and it's beginning in the heart of a man this very day. It must always begin in the heart of a man, for when one man begins to agree with God like Joseph did in Egypt, that's the heart of a man beginning to agree with God. Where that man is will begin in that city. For that man will become the heart of that city. For that city will be shook by that man's vision because he will have the vision of God for that city.
Amen.
Look at that.
That's what God's doing.
Now this is from a word from 1975. And quoting, and what does he talk about? Like Joseph. Now, I asked the Lord, I read this one time, and I said, now, Lord, what do you mean? Because you quote here, it will be like Joseph did in Egypt. I said, what does that mean? What the resurrection angel said. And the Lord said, how did I give my word to Joseph? Didn't I do it in dreams? And the Lord then gave me a dream for our city. In a dream I had 2015, and in the dream I saw the door of heaven open over Rochester, and it was made up of the light of heaven, and it was open. And inside the door of the third heaven over Rochester, it was all made out of the white light of heaven, the brightest light. It's the most beautiful light of the heavens, whiteness. And inside the door was, if you ever seen that picture of William Branham with the halo over his head, there was a halo of light inside the door of heaven over Rochester, and suddenly it shot down to Rochester, and all these angels made of the same light followed it. One angel looked like a star, one angel looked like a wheel, and there were all these angels made up of the same light. And then they flew down to Rochester, and all of Rochester got saved, literally. And then the Lord reminded me, before this happened, I had had a series of dreams. But when I had the dreams, the Lord 100% took them away from me, and I couldn't remember them any. The Lord can do that to you. He can give you something and then take it away. You can't even remember it until He wants you to remember it. And I saw this all happen in that dream, and suddenly I cried out in the dream. I said, I've seen this before. And suddenly I remembered. And all of a sudden, it all came back to me, and I had seen night after night. I was in the front yard of my parents' house, and I would stand there, and I would look up, and in the heaven over Rochester, a quarter of the whole sky was the light of heaven, literally. And all these angels were shooting down from the light over Rochester. That took up a quarter of the whole sky, the light of heaven, and they would fly down, and they would stand where I was standing, night after night after night after night. And the Lord said, He said, I took this away from you because I knew you would say something about it. You wouldn't shut up. That's what He said to me. He said, you couldn't shut up if I showed it to you, so I had to take it 100% from you because it wasn't time to say it. But He said, this is my plan for Rochester. He said, I'm going to send all those angels down, and that's how the whole city is going to be saved. But the Lord brought this back to me. He said, that's the dream, like I gave Joseph. I gave him my heart in the dream. And I gave you that dream because that's my heart for Rochester. Because that's what Bob Jones said, that the angels were loosed to the four, north, south, east, and west of Rochester. And he said they were loosed as winds. And he said they're creating in Rochester a place of great salvation. So I'm just saying this tonight because this is what this thing is saying to us, that it's now time for this to happen. See, think about that. The heart that God says, I gave you my heart in the dream like I gave Joseph my heart. And what will that do? It'll save your city. You'll have the heart of God, the vision of God for your city, just like I gave Joseph thy heart for Israel.
And what opened today? A door. But it was a door of fire. And the angels were coming down. Because there's a canopy coming all around, and you're going to hear a different sound as I shake your ground. A new habitation will be found. Because the demons that are fighting you will be bound. And you will harvest the hearts of men all around. So, thank you, Lord. I want to say something about Sunday night's meeting. So after we put the rock in the ground and we recommitted the vision, again, brand new, to the Lord to reroot it, the original purpose, right? Years ago, Ian Johnson gave me a key. The one with the horse, the ancient one from Turkey, right? It was he had gotten it when he was in Turkey, and it was from one of the original 7 churches there in Turkey, which I can't remember which one it is. Smyrna, I thought so. It was the angel of the church in Smyrna led his friend to it, and his friend gave it to him, and he had it for many years, and then he gave it to me. The Lord told him, give it to me. So all these years, I keep asking God, what about this key? What about this key? Why is Turkey significant to us here in Rochester, right? In this region. Yeah. I'm going to explain it to you. So Smyrna is the church that went through great persecution and bloodshed, great martyrdom. And Ian said, about that, he said, it is the blood of the martyrs, the region that was and is still ethnically Armenian. It was in this province that Turkey murdered 1 million Armenian Christians over a 20-year period from 1895 to 1915. The Syrian city of Aleppo, formerly home to 6,000 Christians, is less than 50 kilometers away from the earthquake that happened this week and have suffered 800 deaths. And he said, I hear the cry from under the throne, how long, Lord, till you receive the reward for your suffering? And so when Turkey had the earthquake, I said, okay, it's about the key, prophetically, and we have that key. How are we affected, and what is our part in that? Because, see, it's a global harvest, and the church has a governing authority, right? So there's a seismologist that I follow, and he's not a part of the USGS because actually he will take you through as to what is really happening, because a lot of the quake feed things, they change numbers and they don't report every quake and everything, they do stuff. I don't want to get in trouble online, so I have to just say it that way. But he goes through and explains everything. So he made an interesting statement that got my attention. Because when he went to the origin of the first quake, the 8.2 or whatever it was, he followed it and he said every quake has I think it's called an antipode, a beginning and an end, where the energy is released at the end point. He always looks for the end point, to see where it is dissipated and where it ends at. The Turkey quake ended in New Zealand on the North Island, where Ian is. And then, interestingly, because I talked to him, because they get quakes there too, from different areas. So I was interested. So Monday, when Buffalo had the quake, they only reported one, but the seismologist showed us there was 4, right in a quick cluster. But they only reported one, and they went from a 3.2 to a 4.2. And they only reported the 3.8, I think. But he said the antipode from New Zealand's quake is Buffalo. And the stone, that was Monday. The stone that we did in the spirit to root it in the ground again in this region, the quake responded to Buffalo. Because Buffalo, Rochester, Hamilton, and Toronto is the 4 pillars region, and Buffalo is a gate. And that gate from Ian, what we did here, governmentally, had a natural response to the spiritual, governmental establishing of what God formerly said would happen. And there was a natural response, and there was 4. 4. And I have the video where the seismologist actually explains it, because I sent it to Ian. And he said, and so I thought of my key. Now that key came from Turkey to Ian. New Zealand, and then from New Zealand to this region. Why? Who knows? But we don't even know what we're doing. But regions are unlocking. And God is shaking things, and we're going to see greater quakes even in this region. But I think it's significant. Even Ian said, you know, it's significant. I don't know why God told me to give you that key, but he said, pass it from me to you. He says, you guys don't even know the important part you're going to play in the coming years. And so we have the key, and I thought, how, that's interesting that Turkey to New Zealand to Buffalo. See, it's all connected. God is doing something in the globe. And I just think it's interesting that these things are happening. We don't know what it is yet. We're just connecting dots of something bigger that God is going to break open in the earth.
Now, I wanted to say when Ian gave us that key, some of you might have been in that meeting. That was the other location.
Yeah.
But Ian, when he gave us the key, he first told us a testimony, how that he had been in this experience with the Lord. I don't know, it might have been a dream, I don't know, I can't remember, but it was a literal experience Ian had, where he said that he was in that area that he's talking about, of you know, in Turkey and Syria, where all these people have been martyred. And he was actually, in this experience he had, he was caught away to there, and he was in a pit where they were all thrown and buried after they had killed him. And he's among the dead. Yeah. His body's laying with the martyrs, literally in this experience. And he said, I went through the martyrdom. They martyred me in this experience. I think of that. He had this experience. And he said, now I'm going to tell you how real it was to him, and the experience he had. He told us this whole testimony when he gave us the key. He said, after I martyred with them, and I'm laying among their bodies in that region of the world, he said, all of a sudden, the Lord brings me back into my body. My spirit left my body, he said. And I was there, literally, my spirit. But I was among the martyrs. And they had killed me, martyred me. He said, I come back. And he said, I was sitting he said, I was just in such another place that he said, I was like pacing in the room, and just trying to get my bearings because I was, in this experience. It was real. It was real. And he said that this pastor, right then he said he gets a doorbell, his doorbell rings, and he goes to the door, and it's a fellow pastor, I believe it was, that he knew. And he comes in, and Ian's sitting there on the couch, and I started telling this brother what had happened to me. And he said, and I looked down, and when I looked down at my body, I have a cut. My skin is actually cut, and it's blood all across my chest in the natural. It literally happened to him. His body was cut, bleeding across his chest where they had killed him when he came, and that was his physical body. Now you think about that.
Those things are real.
That's a supernatural experience that the Lord gave him, but God gave him that sign, and this other pastor saw it too. He was there and saw it as a witness. And he said, the Lord said, give you this. He tells us, and he says, he gives us the key. Connected to this experience that he had.
Great.
So, like Sue said, I don't think any of us know totally what it means, but then the Lord brings it all back, connecting it to what happened on Sunday, and then what Sue's going over tonight, and what he said tonight. Now think about it. I'm totally amazed because I had no plan to tell that testimony about the door of heaven and all that stuff that I saw, and then like Sue said, then she sees it at the beginning. Yeah. And see, so I'm telling you, there's something very sovereign happening here. But again, remember what the Lord said at the beginning. He said, my shaking. He kept talking about the shaking, didn't he? And we know quakes are shaking, right? So I just, again, see, these things are signs also from the Lord. See, and the Lord is also, I have a book from Morris Cerullo where he talks about the end time shaking has started. And in there, he talks about how God sends shakings and earthquakes to release moves of God in the earth. And he talks about the Azusa Street revival and how that the quake came to San Francisco right when it began. As one of the signs of the shaking, releasing moves of God. So I'm just bringing this up too because this is connected to what the Spirit's doing in the earth, what he does in heaven.
And so God has created living martyrs for his cause. You know, living martyrs, we've gone through a spiritual death, all of us in this region. And everything died. And God is blowing again to bring a resurrection. He's coming a second time to recover, you know, all that was lost. But it's going to be different than before because it's God's war. Now, Revelations chapter 2, verse 8, I'm going to read the letter to Smyrna, right? To the angel over the church in Smyrna, write, these are the words of the first and last who died and came to life again. I know your affliction and your distress and the pressing trouble and your poverty, but you all are rich. And how you are abused and reviled and slandered by those who say that they are Jews and are not, but are of the synagogue of Satan. In other words, the worldly church, right? Fear nothing that you are about to suffer. Dismiss your dread and your fears, because the devil indeed is about to throw some of you in prison. I think we all went through that. That you will be tested and approved and critically appraised, and for 10 days you will have it. Affliction.
Today's the 10th, right?
Yeah. And see, we all did. We went through all a regional death, didn't we? Isn't that what this prophecy is all about? Right? But be loyally faithful even to death, even if you must die for it, and I will give you the crown, that fiery crown, whoa, of life. He who is able to hear, let him listen to and heed what the Spirit says to the assemblies. He who overcomes and is victorious will not be injured by the second death. So sometimes God allows regions to go into the prison like Joseph unjustly, without a cause, for his purpose. And Joseph didn't understand. He tried to get out several times. But the day came when God called his name. And instead of his shame, God elevated him to fame. And he ruled above the blame because he didn't play the game. But, see, it's the same. And sometimes God gives regions the honor of holding keys, you know, that have been released anciently, long time ago. And someone will pass that key to a region, because to the gatekeepers of the region, and saying, will you steward it like Joseph? Will you go through the trial? Will you die to everything? Will you be falsely accused and proved and all that stuff? Will you let it all die? He says, you don't know now why, but guess what? There's a second wind coming in. And suddenly, you come out, and you're standing, and then the fire, the angels descend again. That's where we are. And I think I'm not saying the quake in Turkey, you know, I'm just connecting dots. It was just markers for Pat and I to know where we are in this season. Why the key? Why Ian? Why this region? What are you doing? How does it connect, right? I don't know, but God's doing something. And there's a new beginning. There's a new beginning.
Or quicken this before, you just reminded me. Psalm 105, 17 to 22 about Joseph. Psalm 105, verse 17 to 22. Again, see, we know there was such keys to Joseph of timing. Like Sue said, God didn't release him from all the suffering till it was time. Remember, Joseph was a type of Christ. Shadow and form. 17. He sent a man before them, before Israel, even Joseph, who was sold for a servant, whose feet they hurt with fetters. He was laid in iron. Look at what he went through. Until the time that his word came. He went through this. The word of the Lord tried him. What tried him?
God's word.
Did the devil try him? Did Egypt try him? No. The word tried him that he had gotten in the dreams. Okay? The king sent and loosed him in God's time, even the ruler of the people, and let him go free. Here it is. He made him lord of his house and ruler of all his substance, to bind his princes at his pleasure and to teach his senators wisdom. See, this was the exaltation of Joseph, but also this is a summary in the scripture of Joseph's life. See? But it was what? He had to wait till the word and the dreams he had gotten until it was time, and until it was time for it to happen, that word he got in the dreams tried him. See, and we've been, Lord, saying you've been tried since you got all these words, all these years.
And we actually did a meeting with Gary Gary Beaton. Sorry, Gary. And we talked about the living martyrs. You know, those that God kills, man can't kill.
That's true. And Timothy too.
And Timothy too. So, we're just putting all this together. See, God confirms his word. And he's trying to show us that there's something new breaking open in our region. And there's a major fault line that runs all across the Great Lakes, underneath them all. From a lot of string of lakes have fault lines under them. But God's going to shake this region more. We're going to see more. Because God is breaking the strongholds that have strangled the voice of God in this region. And if you don't think that the enemy knew the prophecies for the 4 cities, he did. And that's why he perverted it all and corrupted it and got it to kill it. But it was a trial run because he wanted to see what we would do. And see, now it's going to be new and it's going to be true. And there's nothing that men can do because it's not going to be a man. It's going to be God's plan. And the Lord said here, I am your keeper. Let's go to Psalm 121. It's not on your paper. These are ones he gave me before the meeting. There's many of them that talk about God your keeper, but I'm just reading the ones that he gave me. Psalm 121, verse 5. Actually, verse 4. Behold, he who keeps you, Israel, you, believers, he who keeps you will neither slumber or sleep. The Lord is your keeper. The Lord is your shade on your right, the side not carrying a shield. The sun will not smite you or the moon. The Lord will keep you from all evil. He will keep your life. He will keep you going in and going out. Why? Because you have a purpose yet to be fulfilled. And we have to understand God keeps covenant. And sometimes in that covenant keeping, he will kill everything. And then he will birth something new. And so I said, Lord, what do you want us to do? He said, you have to understand in these scriptures he gave me, I'm giving you extra strength, double strength, mighty indwelling strength now. Where you have been weary in well-doing, and you've been plowing and pioneering and fighting and warring and all that. He said, there's a fresh wind coming through the door. And it's no longer your war, it's mine. is divine, and my angels are descending among you again. I'm coming with the second wind, the wind of acceleration. And I'm going to give you double strength to do what you cannot do. Because he said, it's my battle, not yours. Ephesians 3:16 says, may he grant you out of the rich treasury of his glory to be strengthened and reinforced with that double horse with mighty power in your inner man by the Holy Spirit himself indwelling your innermost being and personality. Everything about your life is about to change. I keep telling you guys that. The Lord told me you're going to get squeezed and stretched. And a lot of what you know and where you come and go and what you're used to doing is going to go boom. And you're going to find yourself in a new room. I even had to die to my schedule and everything that we do. And I've been flipped inside out because I sleep during the day and I'm up all night. My sleep cycle is gone. I don't even know what day it is. I said, Lord, what are you doing? He said, shifting. I'm shifting. You're not in time. You're in eternity. You are moving with my spirit. He said, many are not listening. So I'm vibrating you all night, and then you pass out during the day, and you're like a drunken person in the afternoon drinking coffee, trying to wake up. And that's the truth. And it's very frustrating to me because I think I have to function normally. And he says, what's normal? He says, you're on my time schedule. Now, slowly I'm getting back to the shift. And I'm starting to sleep again in a more operable schedule. Not quite the same, but better. But he said, you're going to have to let go of what you think you know. Because he said, suddenly I'm going to do such a strange work. You're not even going to be able to explain. You're just going to have to get on the train. He said, you're not going to be able to comprehend it as I begin. Because it's going to be so new. It's going to overwhelm all of you. Because it's my glory. And he said, the problem has been we try to control it. We try to tailor it to our schedule. Well, I have to do this, and I have to do that, and I got to do this, and I got to do that. I get behind, and I got to do over here and here and here. And he says, stop. That is not needed in this hour. He says, it's more important to do this. Why? He says, because if you keep going this way, you're going to miss me this way. Let it all go. It doesn't mean we leave everything in disrepair. It says, where is the burden of your care? Let me show you what I'm doing. Because guess what? When you get up there, everything else will take care of itself, right? And so all of a sudden, he says, I'm taking you from a city view to a region view, from a region view to a state view, from a state view to a nation view, from a nation view to a generation view. And all of a sudden, he began to give me words for our generation. Because he said, my church thinks they're leaving the earth. And they haven't even stepped into their destiny yet. He said, many think I'm done with their city and region. It's all done. Let's just move on to something else. Let's gather about this and that and do this and that. He said some people have a regional view. And he said some people even have a view for their nation. But most of the people with a view for our nation, it's all destruction, perversion, darkness. Well, guess what? Isaiah 60 says, in great darkness there will be a great light. Yes, and I'm not focused on the darkness. I'm focused on what's the light doing. Yes. And then he says, what am I doing in your generation? He says, you have to have a long-term view. Your view is too short. You think it's only about you. He says, what about those out there? Who's going to reach them? Who's going to speak into the atmosphere so I can go reach them with somebody? He said, my church is to be a house of prayer for all nations, for this generation, and to prepare even for the generations after us. And if you think there's not more generations, you don't know God's eternal plan. God's always moving in eternity.
Just about that, because this will just help us understand. A few weeks ago when I was talking to Todd Bentley, because Bob Jones, when he died and went to heaven, the Lord told him, gave him the scripture, 1 John 2. It talks about 3 generations of the last days. Calls them the children, the young men, and the fathers. That John the Apostle wrote to. Children, young men, fathers. 1 John chapter 2. You can look it up. And the Lord told Bob, when he died, went up, and the Lord told him about when he would come back and see the 1 billion soul saved before the Lord would come. And he said to him, he said, there are 3 generations left. You're the first one, then your children, and then your children's children. See, there's time left. Now, Todd Bentley, when Bob died and went to heaven, then he was caught up 30 nights in a row in dreams back to heaven. And Jesus took him all around heaven and even took him up to the Apostle Paul in heaven and had experiences with that. And among those 30 nights of dreams in heaven. But during that time, Jesus told Todd, he said, there's 2 men that you're going to meet on earth when you get back. Their name is Todd Bentley and Sean Bolts. And they're end-time harvesters. And then Bob told Todd, and Todd told me this a couple weeks ago, he said, Todd, Pat, Bob told me, and I was with him, he said, Todd, you're that 3rd generation, but Todd also has children. See, that's why what Sue's saying is true, even from what God showed this prophet when he died, went to heaven and sent him back. I'm telling you, there is time left. That's that's 4 generations. There's Bob, then his son, then their children, then like Todd's at that, and then he's done Todd's children he's got. So that's like 4 generations. So it's something to think about this.
Bob said we were his children, because we were at that time under 50 when he said, my
yeah, because we were in a meeting with 2007 with Bob, and he said to us, he said, if you're under 50,
at that time,
you're among that youth, part of the youth generation that I saw coming in.
And Todd's after.
And Todd's after that.
The next
yeah.
level.
And then his children are after that.
So we're the youth.
So I'm just saying, I wanted to say this because it helps us to understand where we are, that there is time left, and there are like Sue said, there are generations left.
Okay, so so we planted the rock in obedience to the Lord.
That's the rock right there.
Sunday night, because Michael Fickus said, when he gave it to us a few years ago, before everything died, and we replanted again Sunday night, it came from the cave in the heart of Moravian Falls, the mountain, the Prayer Mountain there. And because God said, my church has to become a house of prayer for all nations again. And maybe, Jesus was born, Jesus came out of Nazareth. And the very keys to many nations can be in the little stables, the little caves, the little hidden places where God does judicial things. And then he brings it out to view, and it takes a while because even in Jesus' day, they didn't recognize him. And so it takes a little bit to unfold because the church doesn't recognize what God's doing and saying yet, but the remnant knows. And so God is birthing something again, and we got an immediate physical response because I was waiting for something. And when you do something judicially and you plant it as a seed in a prophetic act immediately, I think within 12 hours or whatever we did it, I don't know, there was a natural response. And so there are nations that are connected, like Turkey, like New Zealand, like Buffalo region, like there's nations that have destinies and callings, and those that are not willing to die to the human understanding is not going to get that martyr's crown, the living martyrs that will not take credit for the glory. God killed it, but God's rebirthing. And so when Ian gave me that key years ago, I thought, oh great, the martyr key. And actually, Joshua Patat will love this because in one of Todd's meetings, Joshua Patat, I think this was in LA. Joshua Patat had, I think it was, and he had one white t-shirt and it was about martyrdom. And he said, who wants to answer the call? And nobody wanted it. And I stood up. I did. I stood up and I said, I'll take it. And it was about martyrdom, going into all the world, but who will lay down their life or something like that. I still got that t-shirt, Josh. And he said, who's willing? Who will go for me? And Jesus said, can't you even lay down your life for your brother? He says, get your eyes off of what you want to do and get your eyes on me. They need you. And so I got that key, and I've been praying and I kept asking God, what about the key? What about the key? And then Sunday, Monday, I got the answer. Because then the seismologist explained it and showed the map, and I went, oh, nations are realigning according to God's design. The world don't understand it, but it's a spiritual inheritance. Can you imagine places where there have been great martyrdom, where there's been great death, whether it's physical or spiritual, places of great darkness are about to see a great light.
So in that note, Ian said that the martyr's blood is blood for revival.
Yeah, and he said, watch, there's going to be great revival out of Syria and Turkey area. Because that's one of the 7 churches where original seed was. And so God is doing something so significant that we're just beginning to connect dots. And we don't have full understanding yet. But you know, when Ian fell and he shattered his elbow, I said, what does the elbow mean, God? What does the elbow mean? And I know that sometimes when you take a hold of the elbow, it's covenant. There's a relationship. I'm not trying to spiritualize everything. But there are covenant relationships that God is sowing again for a global impact. And I'm just going to say something that I don't have understanding, but I'm sure Pat will, because he'll jump up here right away. I had an encounter with Bob last night in heaven. And Jesus took me there, and I was standing on his porch again. He has this big house with a white veranda with pillars on it. And he was sitting there, and he said, Sue, hold out your hand. And I held up my hand, and he gave me the pouch with his marbles. And I thought, Bob, you can't give me your pouch with your marbles, that's yours. And he goes, no, but you're going to need it. You guys are going to need the marbles. And I don't even know how it fits in that. The Lord just reminded me. So I'm just going by the dots that are connecting in the Spirit. And I said, what am I supposed to do with it? I can't take these back from heaven to the earth. He goes, eat them. In the Spirit. Eat the marbles. So I ate them. Okay. And And then I was back. And I haven't even talked to Pat yet to get understanding what the marbles mean. But God is going to give us unique things to help us navigate.
I have the prophecies here, 12 marbles. Then I got one other prophecy with it.
That where he was digging in his garden?
Yep. Yep. There's two prophecies to do with the marbles. Okay. Now, Bob said there were 12 marbles that he found in his garden. They were all different colors. But Bob said the Lord gave him understanding that the 12 marbles were for the ephod, which went over the heart of the high priest. So they're a manifestation of the heart of God for God, because the ephod was the 12 tribe colors. So they were the heart of God for his people. That's what the marbles meant.
Well, that's the heart of the city, the heart of the...
Oh, that's true, the heart of the city. That prophecy, the resurrection, that's true, the heart of the city, the heart of God. But God said the heart of a man would be his vision. Now, the other thing is, part of this is, I'll read this to you. Now, when he got marble number 8, it was amber color for the glory. Ezekiel 1, Ezekiel 8, Ezekiel 10 talks about the color of God on the throne was amber himself. Okay? And that's when he got this on, he got the 8th marble on the date of 8/8. That's how the prophets worked. And then he gave a prophecy that day to Rick Joyner that he would have a daughter. He was going to name her Amber. And she was born 2 years later on that date. And she was 8 pounds when they weighed her coming out of the... So she was... I mean, think of that, how God's in that much control. That was marble number 8. But here's what the Lord said. The day Bob found the 12th marble, this is what the God spoke to him. I am going to bring a divine order to the body of Christ. I'm going to bring government to it. I'm going to bring the Holy Spirit over it. I'm going to break the control of man off of it. Then Bob prophesied it will start in 1995, begin in a big way in 1996, and come to maturity in 1997.
For their generation.
Yep. That's when because that was the season he got the marbles.
And now it's our season.
Yeah. So it's interesting that that's different meanings of what the marbles had to do with.
So put it together, God is giving us the heart for the land, a heart for nations and for our generation. And I totally forgot about it until I was standing up here talking, and he says, now share that. But I said, I don't know what it means. He said, share it anyways. Okay. But he told me to eat them because that's how I could bring it back in the spirit. They were in my spirit. Because, see, God's raising up and Joseph had a generational vision because he fed the nation. Joseph had the wisdom to know what to do in a very bad famine that shook the whole world. And the church is going to steer this generation through a very bad situation in the coming days. But we're going to have the words to know what to do. We're going to navigate through just like Joseph did. And God did it for that purpose, to save a generation. And so how Pat started out, the church needs wisdom to know what to do. That's why we're in the deep. And he said, you have a year till 2024, then you're going to come back to shore and give out the wisdom of what I showed you, right? So we're processing the wisdom so that the church will know what to do in the greater shaking that's coming. There's war coming, spiritual and natural. There's famine. You know, we can see that set up already. There's things, but so what? That's our purpose. Joseph's purpose was to save a generation. The church's purpose is to be a house of prayer for all nations to save a generation. And you guys are in your station for that same purpose. God has a plan, and you guys are the implements of that plan. It's bigger than us. We survived a little killing. How about the bigger ones? You know, it's about a generational view. And guess what? God knows where every fish is in the sea. He knows everyone that's going to be saved. We don't have to be in fear. He knows how to bring them in, right? All we do is remind God of his word, of his covenant, of our scrolls. Not to be in fear. Joseph came out of the dungeon and sat in the throne suddenly. And then he faithfully stewarded under a pagan king. Doesn't matter where God puts you in an unrighteous government, in nations, so what? You're to function in the earth right where they are. In the midst of unrighteousness, you're put in your seat to make a difference. Doesn't matter what the world's doing. You're right on time. You are part of what heaven is doing. And God has begun again. There's new shoots coming out of the stumps, the old roots. Because the old roots have been burned up, they've been killed. They've been tilled. And you're the new roots. You're going to bear double fruit because you're getting double strength and double horses to help you. And the courses of what God has destined for this region will not be determined by man or cursed by man or controlled by man. Guess what? It's heaven's plan. And it's all going to be burning fire everywhere. And so we sowed that, planted that rock again, and there's actually a lion in that. But we put that lion in the ground, and then boom, we had an earthquake right after that. It's affected, it's reset the earth. The earth reacted to the true birth. God's births everywhere, even you watching. The earth is going to react to your planting, to your rooting, to your legislating. The earth is going to shake. But don't be afraid of that. That's just a natural response. The earth is waiting for you. It says the earth is waiting for the sons and daughters of God to get up and say something, do something. Right? And they're just clapping their hands because you are standing up. The mountains are quaking because the sons and daughters are waking. Yes. There's a bounty to be taking. Amen. And your provision comes with the vision. Yes. God's going to pay off your house. Yes. And it's not going to come the way you thought. God has so much more provision. Because, daughter, you couldn't be bought. You've been self-taught by his very hand, and you've been eating the bread that comes from him and not man. And it's been his plan, though many did not understand. And they shook off the dust off of their feet, and they left you to sit alone in your seat, but they did not see what I had written for you. There's so much more I've called you to do, and suddenly your debts are going to be paid. Because you've laid on the altar and you died to me. Now watch what I do in spite of all that you did be and see. Watch. There's a new shoot coming into your ground. And I'm going to prosper you all around. And there's going to be a shaking and a quaking. But there's going to be a supernatural awakening. And there's a harvest for your taking. You're going to set the captives free. With me, with my glory. And you're going to write an unusual story because you do not care what people think. Oh, watch. All around you, the mountains are going to sink, but there's something new going to arise. Oh, you're going to have fire in your skies. And you're going to see the riches of my glory with me, because I set you in the center of the dead thing that men despised, because I knew that you would rise, daughter of my fire, of my desire. Watch, I'm going to lift it higher. There's a new shoot coming out of your root, and you're going to bear much fruit. And you're not going to need, because I am your provision, I am your seed, and I'm going to prosper you as a sign. And my well is going to move, a well of fire that I did prove. And you're going to see a great, great move. Because you let me burn it all. Oh, daughter of my heart's call. Watch what I see because of it all. Watch what you see. Suddenly, everything's going to be paid because you've just been willing to lay in the midst of the ashes. But yet I've been blowing on you with my healing wind. Oh, and there's much more than joy. You're going to give birth to a bouncing baby boy, and the government will flow. And it's going to be new, even though you did not know which way it would go. Watch what I do. It's going to be a brand new flow. And you will say, God, you did say it was so. And that's for you, Becky. You know that. I have no way of knowing. You know. You're in a new season. And God is going to do it. And suddenly the struggle is done. And you're going to run.
Lord brought something back to me. Of course, who gave the prophecy about the 12 marbles. Because in 2021, when we were in the Revival Harvest America with Todd Bentley, in the meeting, Todd was suddenly one night caught away to the third heaven, and he saw Bob Jones in the third heaven. And Bob was in his garden where he found the marbles. And there were 12 plants, little plants that were growing in his garden. The Lord said they were the 12 plantings of the Lord. And then he came back and told us about it. And then I went up and shared about that there were the 12 marbles in his garden. And then the Lord gave me more understanding later for Todd. But then in those meetings, then he gave a word to Sue. And he said, Sue, the 12 plantings of the Lord that Bob transferred it from his garden to Todd's in this experience in heaven. And then he said to Sue, Sue, it's connected to you because you're one of the 12 cities. But the Lord called these the plantings of the Lord. There were 12 plantings of the Lord that he was shown in Bob's garden. And see what Sue says, she replanted the rock.
The governmental role.
And 12 is the number of God's government. But the Lord quickened this to me. And then Sue has experienced with Bob in heaven last night with the 12 marbles. See, I've been seeing Todd at his experience in heaven with Bob and with the 12 plantings. So the Lord just put that together. He said it's all part of walking that out.
It's a governmental role.
It's also, but see, the 12 cities are coming.
It's a governmental call in this nation. And all of you watching have a part too. This is all symbolic for you. So, because 2 weeks ago, I addressed the 9, and there's 9 here again tonight, that the old was done and it's dead, and God's going to do something new in SOG instead. And today we're 9 again. See, God is giving us dots to connect. And he's shifting things so we understand he's about to resurrect. and that we have to just run with him. Just do what he wants to do every meeting. Just whatever. What do you want, God? What are we doing? Follow my lead. It's more exciting anyways. The older is boring, right? It says, let's do something new. Can we get beyond this stuff? You know, but it's God, because he said, I'm going to stretch you. I'm going to do something new. And you have to be willing to go beyond yourself. And so there's a new sowing in the land. And this lion here, this sticker is heavy because it's iron. It's actually iron from the core of the mountain, from Moravian Falls, Prayer Mountain. There is a lion. And Michael Fickus said there's 2 stones, and one goes to SOG, to Rochester region. And I cannot remember what he prophesied that day, but Ed and Debbie were here. Ed and Brenda. Yes, they are. Ed and Debbie Fickus were here, and right in this meeting prophetically, he said, go get the rock, because they brought it from Michael. And he said, they're right here, do it. And so Ed Fickus prophesied over it, and we anointed it. And then we had the earthquake. God's coming through the gates, and it's governmental. It's his work, no longer ours. And we have to surrender to him, and all of you too. God's sowing it brand new, and he's putting his rocks again. And so you're here tonight because God wants you to understand there's a fresh wind going to blow on you, fresh fire going to fall on you, fresh oil, fresh honey, fresh everything. He's earthquakes like we've never seen, because creation is groaning and travailing for the manifestation of the revelation. We've been talking about revelation. How do we get the manifestation? And so, I think Sunday night, we're going to bring the key that I have at home. I have a picture of it, but we're going to bring it again because we're just following the Holy Spirit. But it's time that we begin to ask God, Lord, give me the heart for this nation, for our region, for our city, for other nations, for wherever for this generation. Expand our hearts so that we can embody what you want to start. There's a greater vision that has to come to the church. It's no longer about us anymore. Lord, what are you doing in our generation, and why are we here? What is our part? I'm saying to all of you, begin to ask God for the nations. Begin to ask. Begin to call them out. Begin to get the keys for nations to unlock the inheritance of the generations. Begin to ask again. Like Ruth Heflin said, ask for the nations. And I remember when I was in her last conference before she died in Minneapolis. I was with Sharon and Jeannie at the time. And we went to that conference, and Ruth was passing her mantle. She was dying of cancer. And during the worship, I saw all of these colorful veils, colored fabrics falling from heaven. And I was just weeping uncontrollably. I was just wrecked. And there was all the nations, and she began to sing and prophesy, ask for the nations. But I saw something in the spirit in the corner of that big ballroom. It looked like a clothesline, and there were 3 tattered fabrics, colored flags or whatever they were, hanging on that clothesline in the spirit. And they were tattered, and they were beat up, and they were up there, and nobody was asking for those. And everybody was just asking for all the, beautiful stuff. And I said, God, I want those. I want those 3. And boom, I was wrecked. And he said, that's what I want. Get a higher view. because it's going to be hard, it's going to be death, it's going to be important, but that's your destiny. And so I asked for those 3. I don't know what they are yet. But you know, God wants us to go beyond what men can see. He said, ask of me. And so I'm challenging you. Lord, what do you have available in the Spirit that is available, that can be apprehended for His kingdom purpose in our generation? What's up there waiting for someone to say, I'll take it. Give it to me, God.
I'm going to take the offering for a minute. Okay. We're just going to take a minute before we end here, take the offering for the church. But I wanted to give you a scripture Lord gave me. You know, the marble stones is in the Bible.
It is?
Yes. We're just quick. 1 Chronicles 29:2. Now I have prepared for the house of my God, David wrote, the things of gold to be made of gold, and silver for the things of silver, for brass for the things of brass, the iron, the rock with iron, for things of iron, and wood for things of wood, onyx stones and stones to be set, glistering stones and of diverse colors, and all manner of precious stones, and marble stones in abundance. There they are. 1 Chronicles 29:2.
In the King James.
1 Chronicles 29:2. Marble stones in abundance.
Marbles.
See, I'm telling you. God's word is unlimited. God does things prophetically all the time like this kind of stuff. Yes.
Also, something about the stone, you said that they found it in a cave?
Yes.
And the 400 earlier?
Yes.
So Abraham bought a cave.
That's true.
To bury Sarah.
Yeah.
The name of the place means double.
Ah, look at that. Interesting. Let's just take a minute to pray and receive the offering. Lord, we thank you for the marble stones. We thank you. Again, this is the habitation building. See, our call is habitation. The resurrection angels told Bob. So, Lord, we thank you for the marble stones in abundance, Lord, even as you had your servant dig them up in his garden. We thank you and praise you, Lord. As your people give tonight, let them obey your spirit from all these signs, wonders, and miracles you've done tonight. In Jesus' name, amen. So if you want to give, you can make out a check, make out SOG. You can give in the bucket if you're here. If you want to give online, you can give. Those that are watching online, you can give different ways in the page you're on. You can give through Givelify. You can give through Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, different ways you can give. If you want to give that way, you can do that online. Just so be obedient to you can see you're giving into good ground, all the revelation you're giving into tonight. Praise God. I tell you, it's been an incredible night. Praise God. Hallelujah. So, in Jesus' name.
So, we're going to act on it, right? Not done yet. So, we've already planted the stone as a sign, and we got our first natural response. But there's so much more for every one of you guys, too. You guys online, you guys here. With the 9 that I said a couple weeks ago, the old's done, and God's going to do something new with all of us. We don't know yet, but now 9's back, and we're starting to get a glimpse that it's really big. But because it's a generational call, it's the harvest, right? And I felt led to just anoint all of you for the new. Even for the things you don't know what you're about to do, but like Joseph, suddenly you're going to just shift and lift into something bigger. And it's going to be so profound, and you're going to understand why you had to go into the ground for a season. But it's going to be supernatural. And guess what? God gave Joseph a 7-year plan, didn't he? That would save a generation. And we have 7 years left in this decade. And you are part of the Joseph Company that is going to get a 7-year plan. Even though men are calling for famine, guess what? God can multiply supernaturally even in that time. Goshen had more than enough during the whole time. There are new Josephs arising suddenly out of the ground. They're going to look around and you're going to be found. And the wisdom you're going to be given is going to astound. But God's going to give you provision like a mound. And you're going to help many all around. There are a generation of Josephs sown into the ground for such a time as this. And you're going to get a supernatural plan. And you're going to know how to implement, even with your own hand. All you got to do is stretch out your hand and it will multiply. God's going to give you a 7-year plan. And you're going to prosper by His hand. Suddenly, you're going to find yourself in a governmental position, even in the wicked governments of the earth. And you're going to be trusted with riches of a heavenly worth. And you're going to save many. And so I felt like just to quickly anoint every one of you for that Joseph call. That's going to have the wisdom and the resources. Joseph didn't get the resources first, he got the plan. That's true. Didn't he? Hey, get up here.
No, yes.
That was prophetic.
Yes, it was, yes.
Because you got to be hungry. Joseph got the plan, then he got the financing to do it.
That's true.
And the provision came through the plan. So, Lord, let Ed lay in Joseph's bed. And let him get the dream from you instead. Let him see the sovereign plan, even for his life, that you have written for him. And let him step into that heavenly call, the plan that was meant for all, and let it begin to expand, even as he stretches out to do a new thing in your plan, even from his hand. Give him the mind, the heavenly sounds, the heavenly implements that are going to come all around, the angels yet, to cause things to abound. Let the riches come now in the sounds. Good man. It's on the live stream. Many seeds, hidden deeds, even among the weeds and the reeds. Oh, even among the needs. You have sown and sown and sown and sown and sown and sown. But you haven't seen much return. Oh, but you've been willing to learn. You've been willing to turn. You've been willing to come and go. You've been willing to be still. And you've been willing to rise. Oh, watch, daughter. Watch what you see with your eyes. It's going to be a surprise because it will not happen the way you think. It will not happen where you think and when you think. It's going to be greater because you're going to go up my elevator and you're going to see what is written above. You've already had the sign of my dove. Now watch what I do. Watch how I prosper you. Watch all the things that you're going to knit together and do. It's going to be so big, it's going to accelerate you. And you will be thankful for your seeds because I'm going to come again and blow on all of them. Thank you, Jesus. Sometimes I do it on people's hair because they don't want it on their skin like me. I can't take a lot of oil, different oils. But Father, you have given her wisdom. You said wisdom rests on us like hair on our head. Wisdom, revelatory counsel, and angels' bread. For you have taught her in the heavens, and you're teaching her in the earth. And she's going to teach many sons and daughters to give birth. Lord, I thank you for this teacher and revelator that is teaching many. And she's going to accelerate them as they listen to what she releases, Father. Many are going to give birth in this generation because she's a daughter of worth. Lord, I thank you for showing him where those computer cards are. The things that were old and the things that were new are suddenly going to come into view. Because I have treasures of the old and treasures of the new. And at certain times I bring them out together, old and new. And they're going to be a blessing to you because they're going to fit right in the puzzle, right in the right time by my hand. And you're going to see them expand. And though you don't know what is written in the code, suddenly it's going to come forth, even from old, because there are greater things to be told. There are new things, and you're going to see them, and you're going to be able to put them together in a simple way that many will understand. Many that cannot understand any other way, all of a sudden, they're going to hear the things you say, and they're going to understand the display, and they're going to come into alignment my way. Double dipper. Double strength. Double strength. Mighty indwelling strength. Rivers of joy for the bouncing baby boy. You are birthing governmental things. Lord, double strength this spring. Double joy. Double things are going to break out in a new way. It's going to be shocking, but it's going to be rocking. Even as you're talking, the angels are going to be dancing on your words because they've been waiting to release the heavenly birds. Watch and see what I do. Daughter of double strength, I commission you. This is fun. Haba haba. There's a new commission and a new mission. And you think it's going to be one way, but it's going to be another. Oh, it's going to be fun. It's going to stretch you some. It's going to shock you a lot. But guess what? It's me. And your provision is not going to come the way you think. Oh, that old thing is going to sink. Because there's something new about to be found. Oh, it's going to rock your world all around. But you're going to leap and shout. Because I'm driving the bus.
I don't have to anymore.
It went up the hill, slow and long, but it's going to crest the top. And it's going to go downhill very fast. And you will say, Lord, stop, stop. But I can't because it's going to be over the top. And both of you are going to be cut. But there are many that are going to be blessed. And there are many that are going to come into my rest because you're going to feed them from my breast. You're going to teach them. You're going to bring healing and nourishment to many. And you're going to flourish in your region. You're going to flourish in your commission. You're going to flourish in the provision. And you won't have to labor and say, Lord, we don't have time. You're not bound by time. You're going to move with me. And it's going to be surprising. You will see. And you're going to laugh joyously with me.
Wow. Yeah.
Many have said, Lord, can you unplug her instead? She's wired for 220, but we're only 110. Can you slow her down? No, she's a sign. Because I set my people in cities to be a sign. To rock them out of their ruts. To shake them so they'll get off their butts. To challenge them that there's more. Because I've called you to be a daughter of war. And that's what you're wired for. And you have my plumb line inside of you. But watch, because my fire is going to ignite things. And my wind is going to blow upon it all. And you're going to raise up many warriors, many intercessors, many prophetic ones that will decree with me. Watch and see what I do, because it's going to be wild and fun for you. And many are going to say, she was wild before. Can we have a leash on her now? Give us another leash. Watch what my horses do, because they're going to run right outside of you.
Yeah. Double pushing. I knew. I was standing behind it.
You know the devil's going to get you in trouble. But it's going to be quite a fiery bubble, because I'm going to stir the waters a second time. I'm coming to recover what was not in line. Oh, but you're going to see a new design, and it's going to be mighty fine. Because you're already drinking the wine, but it's going to bubble, 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 and stir up a lot of trouble. But you're going to stand in the midst of it, and you're going to help people steer into the new with me this year.
Amen. Hallelujah. You want to keep going?
All right, you guys. Some people are waiting.
Or you want to stand next to me? She's my sister from...
All right, you guys online. I know it's getting late and they're waiting. You know, you just got to let down your hair because you just don't care. Because it's going to be fire everywhere. So you might as well let go.
Let go.
Because there's something you never thought of is going to show. It's going to be fire and snow. It's going to be hot and cold. It's going to be shaking and quaking. Because heaven is making the things that were ready for the taking. And you're going to see it. And you're going to decree it. And suddenly you're going to be it. Because you're coming out of the dungeon. Out of the cave. You're coming out of the baskets of men. And you're coming to stand with him and begin. There's coming a second wind, a wind of fire. And you all are watching tonight because you're going to be full of his desire, like he said. Get ready for fiery bread. Get ready for a resurrection instead. Amen. Hallelujah. See, we don't know what we're doing. We are following the cloud. Cloud by day, fire by night. Follow the Spirit, and you will begin to see how it connects. And you just move with him and let him direct. Go have fun. And then let Mom know what's done. Oh.
Pray for Ian, one more thing.
Okay.
Oh, the Lord gave me something for Ian.
Okay.
Good.
So, it's kind of different. I just touched it. Oh. Okay, so Ian, I don't understand this, but if you're watching, or if he's not watching, somebody take note of the time online and then let Ian know that this is a piece for him. About his elbow, the breaking of the elbow, I think is interesting. In Revelations 21:17, it talked about God measuring the wall, 144 cubits, about 72 yards, by a man's measure of a cubit from his elbow to his third fingertip, which is the measure of the angel. I believe that the elbow to the third fingertip is a word for you, Ian, and all of you at Southwind and your nation. That there's a new measure coming from the elbow to the third fingertip. That is the evangelist, apostle, prophet, evangelist, the middle finger, which is the true measure of the angel. There's a heavenly measurement God had to shatter and break the measurement of men. The elbow is a commissioning, it's a covenant. The elbow, with the realigning of the elbow, I believe, I'm not saying the accident was God, I'm just saying God's speaking through it, that there's a new measure coming out of New Zealand's treasure. It's not going to be the work of a man, it's going to be God's plan. And the parable of the elbow to the third finger, there's a new harvest about to expand of evangelism across New Zealand's land, Australia, the islands of the sea. It's a heavenly measurement. It's heaven's decree. Revelation 21:17. Out of this accident, there's a plan. It's a sign. God says, watch me realign it and reconnect it and attach it correctly. There's a new release of evangelism of harvest that's going to expand, and it's the angelic host coming to realign from the elbow to the middle finger. And so I believe there's something in there for you. 144 cubits is governmental. It's a square, 12 by 12 by 12 by 12. And so there's a governmental seed in this that's going to open up. And it's the breaking of man's measure to release the angelic measure that's going to expand the harvest in your nations. So hope this speaks to you in some way. Yeah. Oh.
Okay. Thank you. So earlier you mentioned about Ian, Todd wanting Ian to come here. And so back when Todd came here, when we were praying for Ian, I saw a highway open up, an angel coming. God was reminding me of a passageway being made available for him to come. And I felt like he was leading me to pray about what I saw. Okay. The other thing, as you were talking about the mandates and how he's being withheld to come here because of certain mandates. So the Lord brought up to me Corrie ten Boom. She was released from the concentration camp because she got some paperwork that released her. The next day, that age group all got killed, all got put down, okay? But God supernaturally provided the paperwork to release her. So I feel like that's a declaration. We're declaring God supernaturally going to bypass the mandates that are required, and he's going to...
Heaven's legislation.
Heaven's legislation. And that's what I'm decreeing, and we're releasing right now, heaven's legislation. And he brought up Corrie ten Boom. I got her out. And so we're calling Ian in, and there's already a highway open for him to travel on. Yeah. Thank you.
Amen. All right. The end. I love you guys. We have 4 hours of prayer.